Hi everybody and welcome to Cut the Kibble. Today I wanted to talk to you about foods, a list of foods that you should never be giving your dog. I did this video a few minutes ago and I just viewed it and I left out an important one. So I'm doing it all over again. So, just like you go online and you see that, sorry, I have the little light on in the back because it's dark and I can't read without my glasses. Anyway, so just like you go online and you read that never home cook for your dog, it's dangerous. And I've been home cooking for Bella for 13 years. You can also go online and you'll read that certain foods are dangerous for your dogs. Well, you gotta look at the source, you gotta look at the date that was written, because dog nutrition is something new. And even the ASPCA needs to update their list because they say that garlic in any form is dangerous for a dog. And I'm gonna do another separate video to tell you why garlic and two other ingredients that you read online that say they're bad are actually good for your dog. So let's listen. If you want to read, I have this in my new newsletter. I'll put a link in the first comment to give you a link to my newsletter so you could read more about it. So the first food that you need to stay away from is onions in any form. Cooked onions, raw onions, onion skin, any part of an onion. And yes, onion is the same family of garlic. But again, I'm going to talk about garlic separately. The next thing is chocolate. Dogs love sweets. If you drop a piece of candy, they're going to run right over to it. Cats don't like sweets as much. And with chocolate, there's something in it, and it's called theobromine, and it's heavily in dark chocolate. So milk chocolate's not good for dogs, but dark chocolate is really not good for dogs. The next thing is, let's talk about nuts. Nuts are good for dogs in, limitations, but you gotta stay away from macadamia nuts. They don't know. Maybe we'll know in a few years. Like I said, canine nutrition is new, but they don't know right now what is in the macadamia nut that makes it so bad and the dogs get so sick. So you gotta be careful, because macadamia nuts it's in trail mix, it's in granola bars, it's in cookies. You gotta read your labels. The next thing is corn on the cob. Now, I've talked about corn in different videos, but right now I'm talking about the actual cob. I'll see people, they'll throw corn to their dog, or the dog will jump on the table or go in the garbage, and they'll get that cob, and they'll try to chew it. You really can't chew on that, and they'll swallow it whole, and that's going to cause an obstruction in your dog's airway or in the intestines. So you got to keep that corn on the cob away from your dog, and don't have your dogs eat corn. Corn is just bad in so many ways. I've talked about it before. And yes, you're going to see it in dog food because it's an inferior filler. Less money for the company to make and more money in their pockets. The next thing is baked goods. You got to be careful because a lot of baked goods have xylitol. And my last newsletter, I talked about xylitol, how deadly it is for dogs. And xylitol can be in low sugar desserts, low sugar yogurts, so you have to be very careful. Alcohol can affect the central nervous system. And the one that I left out in the other video was cooked bones and fat trimmings. Thanksgiving is like the most, I don't want to say scariest time, but the most anxious time of the year for me, because I make a big dinner and then my husband's there and he's carving the turkey and he has all these different pans and he's putting the bones in one pan And Bella's right there by his feet. She's looking down, and I'm right there looking at him and looking at her. Because I don't want one of those bones to fall on the floor, and then she'll grab it. Cooked bones are very, very dangerous for dogs because they're dry and brittle. And if they swallow the bones, it's going to be like splinters going down into their intestines. So cooked bones are a no. And fat trimmings, I know my mother-in-law would do this. After she would have a T-bone steak, she would throw the bone, the cooked bone, and the fat to the dogs. Fat is a no. Too much fat for a dog is going to cause pancreatitis. Your dog's going to be vomiting and having diarrhea. It's just no cooked bones and no fat trimmings. So the next thing, grapes and raisins. They can cause liver and kidney failure. I'll never forget when my daughter was around 10 years old. She brought home her lunch and she didn't have the lunchbox closed. And Bella got in there and we thought she ate a grape, and I got frantic and I called the ER and they said to induce vomiting, and we did. And then we found the grape. It was at the bottom of the lunchbox. She never even ate the grape. I mean, if you had kids, I wouldn't allow grapes and raisins in the house. The next thing is apple seeds. Apples are great for dogs. I always peel the skin off, but the seed has cyanide in it, and that's very toxic to dogs. Next is raw yeast dough. Think about it. When you're making maybe a pizza dough or bread and you have that yeast dough on the counter in a bowl and you let it sit for an hour, what is it doing? It's rising. Well, if the dog eats any yeast dough, the same thing's going to happen. It's going to get into the dog's stomach and it's going to rise. It's going to cause a lot of gas and it's going to cause bloat. Bloat is a very serious condition for a dog where the intestines get twisted, and you need to seek immediate attention if your dog has bloat. And then we have popcorn kernels. Dogs love popcorn, but you got to be careful. If you want to give your dog popcorn, you want to have control, just like you want to have control when you're cooking your food. You want to do it in a hot air popper where you have no oil, and after it comes out, you can put a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of salt, because come on, you want salt on your popcorn, don't you? But a lot of salt is not good for dogs. But you don't want the dogs to eat the kernels, the part that didn't pop, because that would be really hard on their digestion, and they could also cause an obstruction. And also, it's the kernel. That's the outer shell of the seed that you get stuck in your teeth, and that hurts, and you have to do dental floss. Well, dogs have teeth too, and it can get stuck in their teeth, and you can't floss their teeth. It can also get stuck in their throat. That's happened with my other Bichon, and the poor thing for like 30 minutes was just coughing, trying to get it up, and was spitting up some like white foamy stuff. Finally, I gave it a little piece of bread. I had to 2 pieces, and the kernel got caught onto the bread, and it went on down. The next thing is tuna. I hear a lot of people, they write in and they say, I feed my dog tuna. I wouldn't do that. Tuna is one of those fish that is high in mercury. So if you want to feed fish to your dog, I would feed a salmon. Yes, you can do canned salmon, but I would not do salmon every day. The most I would do it is twice a week, because salmon does have a small amount of mercury, not like tuna. But you have to remember that your dogs are small. Even if you have a big dog, it's still small compared to a human. And the FDA says that we should not be eating a lot of tuna. And if you're a pregnant mama, you should not be eating tuna. So you don't want to give it to your dog. Tuna is a no. You also got to be careful about microplastics in the seafood. We're hearing a lot about that now. How, our oceans are dumped with plastics, and the fish are eating the plastics, and they're finding that the plastics are in the fish that we're eating. So, well, more needs to be learned about that, but keep the seafood to a minimum. And the next thing is grains. There is no reason for you to be feeding grains to your dogs. Yes, grains are put in commercial dog food because it's a cheap filler, okay? And grains and corn. Actually, corn gluten is considered a protein. So when you see that you're buying a beef kibble, beef is the #1 ingredient, and then you see corn gluten and you may see peas, all those, the peas and the corn gluten, actually has more protein than the actual beef. These are marketing gimmicks, how these kibble companies can make a lot of money by doing inferior products. And think about it, grains have no nutritional value for a dog. A dog in a while didn't go out and have bread. There is no need for grains. Every now and then I will do, when I make my treats, I will put non-GMO oats for the binder, for the flour. Like I wouldn't use white flour, but non-GMO oats that I make into my own flour. And the last one that I researched was rhubarb. And I don't think we've made rhubarb pie once ever. My daughter wanted to do it with a friend. But it kind of resembles celery, but it's red. And evidently the leaves are very toxic to dogs. And your neighbors can be growing rhubarb, and if your dog has free roam, you want to make sure your dog is not going over and eating the leaves of the rhubarb. So if you feel that your dog has ate something toxic and is exhibiting any of these symptoms, as in drooling, loss of appetite, they're vomiting, diarrhea, lethargic, weakness, tremors, seizures, change in thirst and urination, get on the phone to the ER, because every minute is crucial. I hope that this video helped you. You can print out my list that'll be in the newsletter, which I'll have in the comments. Okay, thanks a lot.